Okay, so I'm here with Tish, who we actually have a relationship beyond this being our first time talking. You're my guild leader. We've known each other for probably about 4 years now. I actually went through Reddit and I tried to find the message that I sent you, but because I get so many DMs, I guess Reddit stopped keeping track. The last one I have is from January, no, January of last year, and
Oh
it,
yeah,
it
well
won't let
before
me go
that.
further back. Um, and I think the reason that it would be really cool to do this with you is so I have this following right on Reddit, and you make fun of me about it all the time, and now I'm starting to get like this little bit of a following here. And what ends up happening is the people that I talk to are usually people who are big fans of mine, and they're nice people, and I enjoy talking to them. But I feel like not that I'm above them, but like they don't want to say anything bad about me, right? They fear offending me, but I mean, you know
I
my
don't think
real
you can be
identity.
offended.
I can't be offended. But you know my real name. You actually sent me the Cal Kestis Funko, which I went and I grabbed to show you that I
There we
do still
go.
have it. And you didn't send it to me because you thought I would like it. You sent it to me specifically because you know I fucking hate the Fallen Order game and I hate Cal Kestis, and you thought it would be really funny.
Great
Um,
gag gift.
it is. I sent a Pennywise to a friend once for
It's actually
basically
disappointing because
this.
I think you guessed what it was when I confirmed your address. You're like, you're
Yes,
gonna send me a Cal Funko, and I'm like, no, of course not.
you're like, I have a surprise to send you. But the point is, I think it'd be cool to talk to you to maybe knock me down a couple of pegs, and to find out what it's really like to be in a guild with Egnards. Um, so I saw just beforehand you're drinking scotch tonight,
Whiskey,
whiskey. What do
whiskey,
you have
whiskey, and
there?
ginger ale.
Okay, I'm a big fan of whiskey and ginger ale.
I think it's the best
Um,
combination.
I'm a very big fan. If I chase something, that's how I'll do it. I've got my Dogfish 90. I've got two spares over there just in case I need them. I've been drinking liquor day after day, so I figured I'd knock it down to beers. So again, the one thing I really want to get into is how this all started. Um,
Which is crazy.
but which is insane to me because when I had reached out to you, you were looking for someone I saw like on a Reddit post. It wasn't even a recruiting post.
No,
Um,
I think I remember what the post was, but go on.
okay.
I
Well,
think I
I just remembered seeing something and being like a casual player who was getting sick of my guild and wanted to step up. And I was like, let me just shoot my shot. Let me see. Let me see if I can get into a guild that's like way above my means. And I think I remember you being like, oh, well, your guys look okay, but like your clones suck. So I have to run it by everybody and we'll maybe see if we have room for you.
Yep, that's about right. And I think it was actually I had posted something about just how my guild operates. Something with like, what was it? I don't remember if it was TB or territory wars or booting people or like I think it was about booting people that, you know, we don't boot unless X, Y, or Z or something. Just something with how our guild operates. And you were like, so then you just reached out because of that. Like, oh, that sounds
Way better than what I
way
had.
better. Yeah.
You know,
Like it wasn't
I
anything about GP. I don't think it was about like anything like that. Just about how we operated, and it piqued your interest. And it was shocking to me because Reddit is the last place I would expect to find
people. Yeah, I when I
somebody to
post
join
on
a guild,
there,
let alone somebody who now is an officer in the guild.
well, that's what I find funny, right? Is I was like this scrub reaching out to you. I was from a casual guild, and I definitely was in the bottom, maybe 90% of the guild in terms of GP at the time, and I still think I'm in the bottom half. I'm not sure. I
Really?
don't check
I
often.
don't think you are. Are it would surprise me if you were.
I've built myself up, but generally, like when I recruit, I try to recruit higher than me. So I always end up feel like I'm pushing myself back. Um, and then my officer journey, I think one day I was driving home from a dinner with my dad, and and you reached out, and I thought you were gonna boot me because I wasn't pulling my weight. I was like, oh fuck, like I guess I got to
That was
find some
quick.
other guild. Yeah, it was a couple months, and this was around the time that Crankcore came out, right? And you just needed somebody who wouldn't shut up in Discord, which I think was basically what you said to me. You were
It
like, I
was.
just need someone to keep people interested while we have to sit here for two
You're right.
hours.
By the way, not to interrupt, you are right. You are in the top 50%.
I'm in the top, so I've branched there. I'm getting
Yeah.
there. I'm getting there. But I don't think that have the I would be the Reddit personality that I am if those chances weren't given to me, because I don't know if I take the game as seriously as I did. I was more casual up until I think up until Crankcore and you being like, no, you have to do this thing, and then somehow you weaseled me into recruiting for you and doing territory battles for you, and doing all the fun, time-consuming stuff.
No, oh yeah, the worst things of the guild.
The really the great stuff.
And actually, I know you said at the beginning of this to knock you would you're hopeful that I would knock you down a peg. But truthfully, you've made my life in this game so much easier. I
Well,
mean,
I'm sure on that level.
there was a time where I was when you joined, I was doing TV, I was recruiting and doing guild and being the guild leader to now where you've been able to take all of that off the plate. And now, fortunately and unfortunately, I'm in a role where you would think of as a manager, where I just have good people below me operating everything. But you've killed it in every awful dynamic of this game.
Okay, so those are the good points, right? But those are I recognize those things. I understand that I make your life easier, and I understand I pull a lot of my weight. And Q does a lot of the TV stuff for me now, so like that's become easier. But we've gotten into our tizzies over the years. We've gotten into our spats over the years. We've fought and had bullshit arguments, and you've called me names and I've called you names, and it hasn't always been sunny and roses, and I know that it can be a pain in the ass to deal with my neurotic nature sometimes, and my
There's been a
constant
few.
like this is the way.
I mean, I remember your first month as an officer, maybe even a week, you got into it with DK.
With
That'll
the
always be my memory, where DK is messaging me like, "Who the fuck is this kid?"
he I joke with him about it now, because when Q came on and he didn't like Q, and I'm comfortable saying that because even if Q watches this, I know that they talk now and they're friends now. And I would have to remind him, hey, do you remember when I first started and you and I would flip a shit on each other constantly, and now like you send me messages all the time and we're chatting? And I think the same thing has happened with them where they're constantly talking. He takes a little bit of time to warm up to people.
That's very true. I mean, he and I still get into it from time to time. So, it seemed, I mean, in all honesty, we as a guild, especially amongst officers, we spend so much time together, even if it's not in person, just communicating that it is sort of family-esque. And with that comes people butting heads. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, at least from my perspective, all of our fights over stuff are usually generally stupid, minor.
We get
So
over it.
we get over it quickly.
I know you and I will get into a point where just like, no, we're done with each other for 3 days. And then one of us will break and be like, hey, you up? And it'll just kind of go from there.
We had a recent fight, actually, didn't
We
we?
did. We had over
Oh
the
yeah, it was
over
over
the
the
Hawk Rebel
platoon
Soldier.
Hoth Rebel Soldier. Yeah.
I was doing my Duolingo and I had mentioned that to you, and then you kind of flipped out on me, and I was like, man, I'm just in bed doing my Duolingo. I I don't care. I've definitely walked back how much light side Genosis, I cared a ton, and every little mistake, I was like, boot that fucker. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, all right, we lose a star, we don't really lose that much. Who gives a shit?
And I think you hit the nail on the head with your previous. I'm going to call it a podcast, but your previous streamer podcast where you talked about this TB off is a lot more. What did you say?
deploy centric.
Yeah, or just forgiving.
Yeah,
It's so there's a lot less opportunity to fuck things up.
it's really just when
Fortunately,
we have like those heroes, right? Which we haven't had in over a not over a year because it's only been out about a year, but in like 6 to 8 months, we haven't had someone. We had that one guy who like tried
I'm gonna
to
take it
walk it
close.
up.
Yep.
Yeah, and you lose a star because of somebody doing that. But we haven't had that in a long time. We haven't lost a star. Anytime a mistake has happened, I think we've been able to recoup at least and stay consistent
Yeah. I don't
where
think
we
we've
are.
gone down in this TV, and I think it's only been we fall short of a goal. It hasn't been going backwards, which is fortunate. But again, it's deploy centric, so I mean, everybody should be able to do that at a minimum. So
You would think so.
it makes for a good TV.
I think that's the thing that gets me angry sometimes. Like I'm a busy guy. I work 2 jobs. My wife who's she's on a trip right now, so I'm home alone, but she I takes up a lot of my time when I'm here. If I can find the time to just go in the bathroom and pretending I'm taking a piss to go deploy for 30 seconds, like it's
Right.
not a big ass. Like I get it. If you tell me I can't do combats, fine. I understand. I'm as busy as everybody else. Just say, hey, I gotta pee, load up the game, hit deploy, walk away, forget about it for the rest of the
Right.
night. It's when that falls to the wayside, then I'm like, you couldn't devote what amounts to 20
Right.
seconds, 30 seconds. And I mean, in territory wars, we had that one who just had huge issues and flipped out and as if we asked a lot or
Are you talking about the recent one?
the recent
Yeah, we
one.
freaked out when not actually called out, but took it personally because they did mess up. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing was the messages, right? That were shown afterwards. They're like, "Oh, you guys treat this like a job," and like, well,
It's funny because I
I
don't think that at
I
all, and I
don't,
doubt you do.
I
From a
don't,
from a guild member perspective, at least.
I don't. If people tell me, "Hey, I'm busy," I go, "Hey, cool, just deploy, get out." Like I understand, life is life. Um,
And
but
I'll
that
call
kind of
out
leads.
Prez if he watches this, he'll probably laugh. But I mean, it's the same thing when life gets to you, people moving different states, when time is an issue. We are, I think, pretty forgiving. And okay, well, deploy, don't join territory wars if you can't participate. Just get your tickets. I mean, we're asking the bare minimum. So,
Of any guild at this level. Now, the other thing that I was kind of driving home today and I was thinking about this. I know that the game has like a huge time metric to it and I'm very frustrated with it vocally and I kind of air my grievances vocally and you've kind of aired those grievances. I don't want to say more privately, but at least being frustrated with the game, not on Reddit. What I
yeah, my
find
stuff's very private. I don't think anybody is aware of my own frustrations with the game, except maybe you and maybe
me
officers.
and our little group. But what I still find funny is like our our approach to the game is very different, right? Like I remember when I posted my first auto guide, and I don't know who pinned it. Arvel pinned it or Spaceman pinned. Somebody pinned it, and you had messaged me. You're like, I'm really annoyed that you posted that. Like people are gonna get complacent. Um,
Yep.
so
I was
you're
annoyed.
very like get every wave, not for everybody else, but for yourself. Like I have to get every wave. I have to be in Kyber one. Like I have to be competitive. I have to do this. I have to do that. Whereas in the last year, I'm like, no, I'm gonna spend way less time doing this, or I'm gonna spend way less time doing that. I don't even give a shit anymore.
No,
How is
that's 100%
how is that how is that treating you going into 2024?
not good. Um, I will admit, for the first time in GAC, I spent a whole um, three or a whole, what do we call it?
Round.
Bracket in Kyber 2 for the first time. I've been Kyber 1 this entire.
Isn't it much nicer?
There's an ambulance going by.
You have ambulance sirens going by, and I have my sump pump in my basement just like blaring. We got like this bass constantly going.
It was nice to kind of break the seal and be down there. It isn't enjoyable to my competitiveness to be in Kyber 2, though it made the, I will say since then I've now won 11 of 12, or no, 10 of 12
Okay. So you're
battles.
back up with the big boys.
I went from being in the top 100 of Kyber 2 to now I'm in the top 200 again.
Okay. And
Um,
is that since they made the change, right? Because I know they made the
is there a
adjustment
change?
how
I
like
have
that.
they done anything yet?
They made a change like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't know exactly what it was, but
Has
like
it been implemented though? I think
I
they
think
said that they
so.
were going to de-rank. They were going to. It was. I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's only for the purposes of moving up and down.
Yes,
It's
they
going to look
said
at the season as a whole versus your
they
rank
said
at that
some
moment.
wonky things are going to go on with like rankings because of the squish and like how it is, and a lot of people are going to not enough people are where they should be, so people are going to move up more readily if they're supposed to be higher up, and I do believe it's been implemented.
If it
I
has, I
honestly
haven't
don't
noticed
read most of
a
it.
difference personally. I go
Okay,
up 30 every win, and I'm going down 30 for a loss, and I have no reason to think I'll drop lower in Kyber at
I
the
don't
moment.
even look.
But I don't think I haven't noticed what it's done if it's done anything.
Okay.
But back to your original question of how it is going into 2024, it's awful. It's not fun to always want to stress myself for to stay relevant in Kyber. You need to Omicron the good things. You need to
Hmm.
unlock everything in a timely manner. And the worst part about it is datacrons. And no, it's not enjoyable to actually have an interest in datacrons because they're awful. They don't make the game fun, and they're temporary. Well, the worst thing is they're temporary. So
I don't even mind that they're temporary. I thought I would mind that they were. I think what bothers me the most is that I feel like I spend so much time in the game, and I have to do conquest and gag and everything else, and I feel like I have to relearn everything when there's a new Datacron set.
right,
So that rote memorization that you have of, oh, this goes to this and this goes to that and that goes
right,
to this, you have to completely refigure everything out. And I just don't have the fucking time for it.
right. And it changed the good and the bad as someone who's extremely interested in GAC at least. I have zero interest in territory wars. I think you know that. But from a GAC perspective, the good and the bad is it keeps it fresh. I mean, there was a year straight where if they don't add a new major thing, GAC gets just extremely
Very
repetitive.
stale.
And then you're just going through the motions, which can be in itself good and bad. The, but now, I mean, I think this is part of why I deranked for the first time. It's the constant changing of what's a good counter or what's a
Yeah.
bad counter, or it's just a complete restart of the game every time there's a new Datacron set.
And you spend that first month like learning it,
Right.
and then you have 3 months to implement it. Um,
And then
and
when compound that with 3v3, which is not a staple of the game, which is not utilized anywhere outside of GAC, and in my opinion, is the worst thing they've ever added to this game because there is no efficient place to actually try to utilize a
and
3v
right.
team, let alone a 3v3 team with Datacrons.
Right.
Now
So
you
like
make it
it's
even
not
worse.
perfect, but you can use Arena and you can use Conquest or you can use Galactic War to sort of theory craft, right? Like it's not great. Like they
Right.
suck. Those teams aren't perfect, but there's nothing else where you can say, all right, let me plug in a three and
Right.
see how it contends with something else that's a three.
And even arena, you have to pay for refreshes. You only get 5 battles, and now also find a team, somebody else willing to care
Yeah.
at this point
Are you
about
even in
arena.
your like Shard Discord anymore?
Yeah, I
I
own
left
it.
mine.
I
Oh,
own it, and I hope I'm gonna send this to people in my arena shard just so they can hear me say it. There's people in my arena shard that care.
yeah.
Still,
Still,
they
that's
they send messages. Why did you move me? It's my payout, and I want
yeah.
to say to them all, why? Who cares?
Cares.
You're talking about 200 shard currency at
Which you
most.
Which, if you're a 1 million player, maybe is important, but
Sure.
if you're in a 2016, 2017 shard and you have 10, 11, 12 million GP,
If you have 5+ galactic legends, you probably don't care
that
about
is
Elox.
like a fraction of a rounding error.
Yes.
Like I try to stay below 20, but I still only do one battle a day.
Yeah. I do
And
one
if I
battle a
lose it,
day.
fine. And I usually like I'll do it like when I'm driving home before I start driving, I'll put on Spotify, I'll start the battle, and I'll just leave it in my cup holder. Like I don't look at it until I get home.
Right.
I just
Same.
go, all right, like I don't even have to think about it. I started it up. I'm gonna drive home. If I won, I won. If I lost, I lost.
It's exactly the same. Now, my shard is kind of dead and alive in ways. Like I can stay a week in the top 5, mostly because nobody goes to 2 and I just sit at 2. Everyone
That's what
wants
I do in
1.
Fleet.
And but again, I in the past year, there's probably been 3 to 5 messages like, why did X move me? And I don't even look at it. I don't have notifications on. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I see it 3 weeks late, but then I go in there and who cares?
Like, why is
Why?
it such a big
There's no
deal?
reason to. This game takes up more than enough time already, which is, and that's probably a bigger issue to me of the game is over the years, it's become a larger time sink and there's not enough quality of life changes for to the to match how quickly things have escalated. Like
What I'm
all
gonna
of these
do,
battles we do, all these events should be simmable. There's no reason I'm doing the Ewok event. I
what I'm
shouldn't have
gonna
had to
do now
do 3 things yesterday.
is because this is like every post I make on Reddit, right? And then you give me shit half the time. So I'm gonna put like a little 30-second loop, and every time you give me shit, I'm gonna just send you back your own voice saying quality of life changes, everything simmable, like too much time, because that's my whole thing.
In fairness, not territory battles, not Grand Arena, not territory wars, not things that, not the raid, but yes, events. There's no. I will agree with you on that should be simple. That
Well,
needs to
that's like
be great.
today. I didn't even realize that the Galactic Legend events came, and I was like, oh fuck, like that's something that I have to do later,
Yep.
right? Like I can't just. And most of them you can just do auto. Kenobi I can do auto. Leia I can. All of them I can do
I think
auto
all of them are probably audible, but
except for Ray. I can't do Ray auto, and I haven't tried Supreme Leader Kylo Ren because he's kind of wonky with his AI. But every
sure.
other one I can auto, and the
If you 3 start, there's no reason not to be able to.
right. And the problem with it is like I refuse to refresh them because I don't want to spend the time.
By the way, math guy, for myself, should I
Okay.
be?
Oh
Is that,
God,
should I be refreshing any of these?
yeah, let me get my notebook out and start doing the math right now. So what I found, I didn't do a full thing. So people have been messaging me on Discord and they're like, hey, have you done the math on this? Of course you have. And I'm like, no, I haven't.
I'm
Um,
shocked. I would have guessed you did the day it came out.
all I did, so the day it came out, I was actually in Korea. So
Did I
I
know
did
you were in
no,
Korea?
yeah, you definitely did.
Maybe I did.
You
Why
definitely
were you
did
in
because
Korea?
I was in Korea because my brother lives there. He met some girl on an app. So what
Tinder?
happened was my brother, he's not diagnosed, but I definitely think he's a savant.
Okay.
100%. Like he's someone who when he sets his mind to it, he's gonna do it. And he just one day decided I'm gonna learn the hardest language possible, which is Mandarin Chinese. And when or I don't know if that's objectively, but like most people believe it is. And he said, no, I can't do that. So he started to learn Korean. He's like, Korean's the next best thing or the next worst thing. So he started learning Korean and he went on an app to just talk to native speakers. And he met some girl and he moved there like 6 years ago,
By the way, I really quickly Googled that.
which is
Fact.
the hardest language.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They didn't rate it, but they said the hardest ones are Arabic, Korean, Mandarin, and Japanese.
Okay. So see, it's up there. And he
It's in the
probably was
tier.
like, oh, Korean. Um, so he met this girl years ago. She was actually at my wedding. 4 years ago. And I met her very briefly, but she was so shy because she didn't know English. So my brother brought her up to introduce her to me, and she ran away giggling. Like she's like, I don't know what to do. Um, so they got married over COVID, and he was having like an actual like real ceremony. In I don't know when I went. Was it October? And I think it was November. So we went to Korea to go to the wedding, and I don't even because I was in Korea. Yeah, so that all happened when I was in Korea, or I was in customs. I think I was in customs on the way back because a customs officer yelled at me. Like I was in the customs line doing the battles, waiting, and he's like, "There's no cell phones allowed."
I was gonna. You were doing guild stuff.
I no, I was doing the those new battles, the Galactic
Oh,
Legend
the
battles. I
Galactic
just wanted
Legend.
to get them done, and the
Yeah,
customs line was so long that I was like, I'm just gonna get them done now, so I don't
right.
have to deal with
Makes
them
sense.
later. But long story short, now I'm trying to learn Korean, and I've that's why I've been doing the Duolingo, and I have other subscriptions too because I do want to go back, and I do want to be able to communicate there. So I've been trying, and it's very difficult. Not a fan.
Of what? Learning a second language?
Well, I tried to learn Spanish, but I don't have. I think because I don't have a link to Spanish, I never took it seriously. So now I'm trying Korean because I feel like I have this link to it, and it's just very hard. I don't know if I'm built for languages. I'm
Got
built
it.
for math. Um,
Fourth
but
grade math.
fourth grade, there's nothing else that I do. It's not like I've learned things from people who are smarter than me who will message me and they say, "Hey, have you done fuck what I don't even remember what it's called. The That's how bad I am. The expected value." Right? I
Oh,
learned about expected value from Redditors who asked me about it. And I was like, oh, let me Google this and like read about it. And
you
I
obviously
started
don't do a lot
adding
of
it.
gambling, by the way.
I don't do any gambling. Um, I've been to two casinos like ever in my life. Um, but I learned it doing that. Like all I do is addition, subtraction, and percentages. And people treat it like it's this big thing, and I'm like, you can do this. It's not hard. It's just that you don't want to do
Right.
it.
That's yeah. I mean, I never. I always. I used to do what you're doing, and I stopped, but I never did it as much as you do. But I used to track every single farm of mine just to see, out of curiosity, where it falls.
Where it falls. That's what I do now. And this is, I know you had just listened to it. This is what I was talking to Celiac Sarah about is like, I don't feel like I need to prove the drop rates anymore,
Right.
but I still track them every morning. It's just such a habit. It's something that I can't break. I'm
I
like, I
didn't
feel like
realize
my
the
day isn't
extent
there.
you did it.
I have, I mean, I
It
don't
seems
know
like you
if
track everything.
I don't know if it'll show up well on Zoom, but like, yeah, it doesn't show up. Oh no, maybe it's getting there.
Trying
Right.
to.
Like
Oh
this
yeah,
goes like all the way down. Like
you do that
it's
every day.
every day,
Everything.
everything, every day.
That's crazy.
And it only, I mean, it adds maybe 5 minutes to my game time in the morning, but it's 5 minutes that I could tear apart and use for having like a coffee at home or laying in bed and relaxing in the morning.
Right. Do you enjoy it,
Um,
or is it more of a habit? Like,
if that's a two-pronged question of do you enjoy it or is it a
yeah,
habit,
it kind of is.
then the answer is yes. Like
It's both.
it's both, but it's also like neither, like there are days where I'm like, oh fuck, like I don't want to do this, but I do it just because my brain is like, no, you have to.
That sounds like playing the game
That
for me.
that's this game. Um,
It is.
but I do enjoy interacting with people and I do enjoy helping people. And like I do maybe 5 or 6 roster reviews a week. And like I just enjoy sitting with my coffee in the morning and looking and just helping someone who was maybe in my position from 4 years ago. And now I'm enjoying doing this and just like talking to people. Like you are the first person that I know ish, right? Like we've talked on the phone,
Oh
like
yeah,
we've
yeah,
talked
yeah.
in voice chat, like we've
Yeah.
talked a little bit. We've never been on video.
Have we not?
No,
No, maybe we haven't. No,
I
guess
don't
not.
know. There was no reason to. Um, but it's just cool. Like the first one I did was with a guy in Australia.
Oh,
And it was just fun to chat with a guy who lived in Australia and hear his take. Um, I chatted with Kazgul on Reddit, who's like the other big Redditor, and it was fun to hear his take on things.
can we get one of
Uh,
your haters to?
I
Can
I
you
would
invite one?
I would be down for it. Um, my fear is
Not
it's kind
posting
of
it.
it's not a scale, like it's either zero or Spinal Tap. So, right, like you either like really love me or you hate me so much that you hate my very existence.
It seems like your haters do hate your very existence.
Like if you look at some of the posts, I think you had linked one a few
I
days
did.
ago in like
Yes,
the
like
chat.
2 days ago.
And it's not even like I hate your thoughts. It's just like I'm gonna shoot down everything you say, but I have nothing reasonable to add to the
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, it's all personal. Everything I see against you is always personal.
That's my problem. Like, tell me, tell me
Autistic
that
asshole. That's what sticks in my head.
that's that's the one that you had linked to me. And what was
Yep.
funny was I had sent that to someone. And I had said, "Oh, like every day I get somebody that calls me this like autistic asshole," and then 10 minutes later somebody else did, and I was like, "Oh, see,
There it
there's my
is.
day. It's not a day if I don't get that."
Well, I've
Um,
called you an asshole because you do this thing, and I do it, and I'm an attorney, and every you kind of the characteristic you need is to always be right.
yeah,
You do that, or you always need to be right. Like you
a hundred
should be
percent.
a lawyer. You always need to be right, and you always have to say the last thing.
I tried really hard with the Hoth Rebel Soldier not to. I literally
That was the
backed
one
out of
time you kind of didn't. I was shocked. Like
that time.
I
I
kept
had
looking at my
backed out.
phone. I'm like, when's he gonna respond? And he hasn't. I'm like, that's weird.
I
Two
tried
days
really,
later.
really hard. And then you just kept messaging me, and I was like, all right, I have to respond to him. But I tried. But I do. I agree with that. Like the way that I feel like for me, like I don't
That's
give
why
an.
that's why I dislike you, by the way, sometimes.
That's
Is
fine.
it's me and it's my characteristic and someone else coming towards me. So that's
When you have that, right, there's like that clash because you have to
yeah.
be right, I have to be right.
We can't
And
both be right and be the last one to say something.
but what the funny thing is, like the things that we disagree on are totally objectionable, or like there's no right or wrong. There's like a gray
Correct.
area. It's just that you have an opinion, I have an opinion. There's no truth, and we're
Correct.
just butting heads on whatever our opinion is.
Yep.
But it's not
Have you
it's not
ever wanted
personal.
to leave?
The guild?
Yeah.
No,
Curious.
no,
Interesting.
no. I've been in 3 guilds. The first one I left because they became like so hyper casual that I just couldn't function. The second one I left, again, it was the same thing. It was hyper casual to the point where like you'd be at like 40 of 50, or you'd be at 50 of 50 and 15 people weren't hitting tickets. Um, I've
That's
never
still a
felt
problem. That's a problem here.
you have 2 or 3 people every day, but it's never like that many.
No. I'm just
Um, but I don't need to be at the top. I don't need to be in the best guild. I just need to be in a space where one, I like the people, and two, we are trying to push towards something. And I think that we do. We coast when we feel like it's important to coast. We push when we feel like it's important to push. And I'm fine with that.
it's true. I was just curious, given the discussion of fighting and the earlier conversation of you being an officer and having a lot of duties at one time. I think you still kind of do. but with TB being the way it is, it's more on auto. But just curious.
No, it's a lot easier now. Obviously, I think, and this, we're talking about a lot of like guild issues, and people are like, I don't give a shit. But this, I think, is a really poignant thing in terms of like recruiting is really difficult right now if you're in a
Yeah,
higher end guild, because with Lightside Geo, it didn't matter who you recruited, right? Like everybody had every character. It didn't matter as long as they were 7 stars.
right,
Now you can't get rid of guy who has 10 relic eights who
right,
nobody has, because you're not going to find guy who has those things. It's so
right.
particular now that you have to look for very specific things, and it makes recruiting from like a 1 day process to a week long or like a 2 week long process, and it becomes so tiresome like talking to people.
And another point to that, which again, I haven't had to recruit in what feels like a year or two, but maybe even longer. But without having done it, I would assume a big problem is there's no new content really for guilds,
Yeah,
and there's really no reason to move on. I mean, 1 star is
doesn't
probably
matter.
not a good recruiting mechanism. And unfortunately, I think we at one point, maybe we still are, we had a good ratio of like GP to stars.
Yes,
And that at the time when it was fresh might be a good recruiting tool, but now the difference
doesn't
between
matter.
1 star is nothing, and it takes so much at our point to move up another star. And then you look at, okay, nobody cares about territory wars. It, at least from my perspective, from a guild that is utilizing only active members, not forcing people to play if they
To
don't want,
join.
we very rarely get a fair battle. I think you would agree.
Yes.
um,
I think the
I don't
last
think
one
that's
was actually
possible.
really good. Like
Yeah,
that came down to the wire, like the last 10 minutes of, if we don't get this, we lose, but if we get this, we win.
right.
I think that was the most that I felt like in a territory war. I was
I
at
would,
work, like, oh shit, like, can I?
yeah, I, truth be told, and anyone in our guild who watches this, I'm gonna look poorly, but I've maybe done 4 battles on average at max the last 6 months of TD,
But most of them you haven't
because
needed to.
we haven't needed to. Everyone just cruises through the top, and that's more than enough to get us a win, because to CG's fault, however they are matching guilds, it's just not fair.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what it can't be. I don't know what it's based on, and I thought I used to know, and I have no idea. But going back to my original point, nobody cares about territory wars enough to. If you're in a competitive territory wars guild, or sorry, if you're looking for that, you're already in one,
Yes. Yeah.
and that leads only raids. And unfortunately, while I'm partial to the new raid mechanism, I don't think anyone's leaving guilds for it, because rewards for the rewards for the next tier up are not worth it.
Which
So
is, which is really funny to me, because I remember we had this conversation yesterday, and you watched the stream that I did with
that
Sarah, where I called out the guild, and I was like, I tried, like, after listening to you, and it didn't work, and it's fine. But I don't disagree with you.
it's not, I
Um,
mean, maybe the math is there. I think you said if we complete it by February, we would get
yes,
enough to make it worth it before the cycle ends.
yes, and I didn't do that math. Someone else did that math. I don't have their name offhand. But I'm gonna take it as it seems reasonable.
And
Um,
assuming that's true, I mean, what is that? It's an extra 100 or
it's
200 a week
it's if we move up the next box, it's 1250 MK3.
total, or every attempt?
Every member. Well, every attempt,
Oh,
every
every
attempt,
member.
every member.
So
Every
the
member, every attempt. So you get 1250 up on what you
oh,
have
okay.
now.
I didn't realize it was that much. Every
So
member gets 1250.
yeah. So it goes,
Maybe that
I
is
think
worth.
it goes from 5,000 to 6,250, possibly.
The,
Um,
the
but what I
problem I
was
have is that it's so.
boring.
If it, no, it's that it's temporary. And I know you have a solid point, like Phoenix, improving your profundity squad, or they're useful now with Rex, or blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Um, TB, but and that's a BS one at this point until we get to,
Until you push further. But
and
that,
even
but
then
that,
it's one battle, but
that's the
it,
only reason.
but
Um,
it's so temporary. Like I wish CG would listen to me and make TB Omicron's 10.
yes,
And I'd be willing again to invest.
to do it. See, now I did a video like no, 1 month ago, and it was just kind of me bored on a day off and maybe a little bit drunk. Where I was talking about like time ROI and like just how I value my time and how I'm realizing I need to value my time more.
Okay.
And and the reason why, because I know we've had guys in the past who were big on TB Omicrons when we were doing light side Geonosis, and we were always shitting on them and being like, why? Like
Why?
there's no point.
Owen. I'll call out
Owen,
Owen.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. And he would have like every TB Omicron when everybody was able to push close to max waves and it didn't matter. Nothing
Correct.
those battles would do would help us. I've done Jedi Cal's leadership. I've done Kyle
Do you even
Katarin's.
do you have you
Yes.
used it besides you can't even
Yes.
use it in the event battle. So have you used it?
Jedi Cal's.
Yeah. Because I did
I've
it. I don't think I use it.
I put him as the leader and I can auto Braca, which is I love because Braca is the worst planet. Braca and Dathomir are the worst planets in all of TB. I can auto Dathomir now, and now I can auto most of Braca with Leia and the
Sorry, which one's Braca?
Braca's phase 2 light side.
Oh, I don't think that one's bad.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Um,
I hate the light side neutral planet because there's two battles. The
the light
Han,
side neutral planet.
yeah, no, the
What
neutral, the day two neutral. Sorry,
I can do all of those on auto. I don't even look at it.
the young Han.
No, I can't do that because I don't have them up. You're right. I
That
have Young Han. I did that because of some other thing, but I don't have whoever else you need.
that battle's awful, and I also hate the Hondo battle, and then all of the Night Sister planet.
I can do I mean we were talking about this earlier. I can do that whole planet on auto. I can do the special mission on auto with my Night Sisters. I'm very pro Night Sisters. I think people at our level fucking level your Night Sisters. My R8 Night Sisters can auto every single planet. Geo is a little bit iffy. It gets a little like just
Oh,
because
with
it's
Night
all
Sisters.
with Nights because it's all bosses, not like
Right.
um but even
But you
brainworms
should be able to do
on
that easily with you can
yeah,
auto with
you
galactic.
can you can but I just wanted to try and see if I could do it with them and it works but it's not always safe. But they contend with brainworms in day 4 on Haven, um against all of the rebel squads. Han
Yeah,
tried it last month with 0 of 6 platoons and he said he still was able to do it. um
yeah, it pisses me off. Sorry,
you
I'm in a
I know,
battle
I know.
Han for waves. Hana, if you are listening, I hate you sometimes because you are the bane of my existence. Yesterday, I was yelling and almost threw my phone because I lost on like the mace battle or something. Day one.
Yeah.
I take that way too competitively.
What is really funny about day 1 is I would have had a perfect auto day 1 every single mission, including the fleet battle in dark side.
Okay.
But I tried Phoenix as a new one in light side and lost. So
I guess it doesn't matter. They're all the
this
same.
doesn't matter, all the same. But the dark side fleet is the hardest thing to auto, and I figured out something that works like 50% of the time.
Fifth assassin.
No, Mark 6 in the opening
Oh,
lineup.
yeah. That's what I've been using now.
but I was able to get it to work, and I with like trying some new things. So I had a perfect round, all autos up until light side, and Phoenix just couldn't, it couldn't contend with all the protection up. They survived, they didn't die, but it just would never end. There was no way that battle was ending.
Not to bore any of your listeners with a personal question related to TB, but going back to our previous conversation from today, that Mace battle,
Yeah.
you done it without Kyle.
I did it today without Kyle, but I don't remember who I used. I think I'd said it. I had done it with GR Jedi because I had Kenobi left over. And I used, I'm
So
not
you used
100%
Jedi
sure.
Master Kenobi.
It was probably Kenobi, General Anakin, Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, Fisto rather, and Grandmaster Yoda. I think that's the team I used.
Grandmaster Yoda was your fifth. I use Cam, and I win probably 90% of the time, but it's enough to bother me.
I think the foresight and the buffs and the constant jumping with Grandmaster Yoda just works a little bit
I have to
better.
try that better because that makes more sense. I'm gonna take Cam out.
But I'm 90% sure that that's who I used for that day. And I brought Mace up and I brought Kit Fisto up specifically just to get a full day auto. Like I didn't need to. We don't need them at all. There's
You
no
mean you
like
took him up to the minimum for the battle, or you took him up even higher?
I took them up to the minimum for the battle
Okay.
specifically just so I could do the whole day. Even though knowing we're like 200 million, like we could just deploy only that day and we would still get
I've
it.
thought about R8, no, R9ing things just for the sake of waves to compete with Han.
You and Han are the two people that I talk to the most, which is funny. Han's constantly messaging me about autos too. And he's like, oh, I'm trying these different things and like I'm trying out your strategies and I'm seeing what works. And I laugh with him. I'm like, Tish and you, like you are so competitive on this. And I'm like, I just don't give a shit. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I win.
And it makes no, I don't even know if he cares as much as I do. He did because to
He
toot my own
does. Oh,
horn,
he
he,
absolutely does.
I'm gonna make myself feel better. I mean, it took him a solid how long? How long has this been out? A year?
About a
More?
year. About a year.
It took him 8 months of trying to beat me to actually beat me.
Do you
So
remember that day on Lightside Geo that I beat you and you got really mad? I got perfect
yeah,
wave that
no, I
one
don't.
time.
But I would be mad.
I
It
got
would
so
shock.
excited and you were so pissed off.
I don't know why I take everything in this game I take everything so competitively, but there's no reason to, and I just do. And it keeps me interested in the game. And if I wasn't that way,
All right, so
I would lose it
stay
real
that
quick.
way then.
But it's hard. I mean, I think though my 2023 was my least expensive year of playing Swaga,
Yeah.
which is a positive. But I would like to get that to close to zero as possible because it's just I don't think of it as a waste of money, given that people spend $70 for a video game that they could beat in
Hmm.
100 hours, and I probably play this 2 hours a day at a minimum, especially during conquest weeks. So I look at it that way, but it's still I'm trying to make it as irregular as possible because
I understand. When I go on Reddit and I have these messages and I talk to people about like spending and like what's worth it and what's not worth it, I think my one of my biggest pet peeves is the argument of, oh, you can get a full game for that $70.
I
And as someone who's busy, right? And I know we're going into tax season, so like for the
oh,
next three
don't make
months,
fun of me.
I know you're going to be pissy and angry and constantly never available. But for people who are busy constantly, I don't have time to buy a $70 game and play it.
Right.
This is my game. This is what I'm able to do. And I'm able to spend 2 hours on it, but only because 10 minutes of it is in the morning and 10 minutes of it is like at this point, and it's just constantly at different times. I
Yep.
I I, I mean, you saw like Yak sent me Survivor I didn't pay for Survivor. There was no way I was spending money on Survivor. I paid postage for it to play it because it just doesn't wasn't worth it for me.
I mean, those people who on Reddit will be like, "Oh, you could go buy something for that," but unless they're buying like Witcher or
Great game.
something. I was trying to think of another something now. Starfield, something with like hours of and hundreds of
Yeah.
hours of playtime. I mean, play what you and I will never knock anyone for playing what they enjoy, but that argument is such bullshit because so many games nowadays, at least if they're story driven, are you're getting 10 to 15 hours of playtime.
Yeah.
Jedi Survivor was what, 15, 10, 20?
15, maybe 20. I took it slow, but like and it wasn't
If you don't
I
play a game on hard these days, and if you don't go for like all the Assassin's Creed level collectibles, just to go through a story mode is nothing compared to the time most people, at least at 8 million plus GP in this game, play.
so about a year ago, a friend, like one of my best friends, my friend who I sent him a Pennywise because he's afraid of clowns. He sent me for my birthday. We have the same birthday, and like he sent me Elden Ring. And he sent me Elden Ring because he knows I hate those types of games. I
Worst
hate
type of
Souls
game on the
games.
planet, in
I
my
hate
opinion.
them. But he sent it to me as like a joke. He's like, this is so funny. And because I hate him and love him at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like hate play this game and I'm gonna 100% it just to fuck with him, just to piss him off. And even Elden Ring, which people are like, oh, I spent like 300, 400, 500, 600 hours on. I spent maybe 80 hours on it, 100%. So that's like 4 playthroughs of the game. And I think I clocked in at about 80 hours. So like and
Right,
that's a lot of time. If you spend $70, like that's great, but like it's nowhere near the inflated values that people
right,
seem to think.
right. And that you picked an example where it has plenty of hours and you still only capped it at 80.
Yeah. And the
So no,
other
I
thing,
hate that argument from
I think
people.
the other thing that comes down to is like I mean I'm not rich. I'm lower middle. I tell people I'm lower middle class. Like I don't have a ton of money, but like I do have a disposable income budget. Like you can buy your AAA game and also spend $20 on a pack. Like it's not, if you're planning correctly
Yeah.
and if you're not spending frivolously constantly and you're enjoying the game, okay, go for it. Do it. Whatever makes you happy.
I think that's probably another thing people, a trap people fall into is not knowing what's good value. And that's a benefit you provide, or I don't think Arnold provides much value to the community, in my opinion. With that being said, he is very good at helping people find value in spending,
Yeah.
which I applaud. But I think a lot of people just look at packs and then kind of just probably buy things they probably don't need because they're not valuing it properly. But if you have a limited budget, but you give yourself $20, I mean, that's probably enough to a month to probably get your way through the game in most ways. I mean, you're not going
Oh
to get a
yeah.
cosmetic legend, but if you just look for things of value and not just buying something that I don't have an idea in my head of an
Well, there
example.
are some packs that have come out that are just like this is objectively a shit value and unless you're like pissing money in the wind, it's not worth buying. And
That's most of the packs.
yes, but there are packs that you look at and you go, well, you actually get a pretty decent amount for it in comparison to the other packs that are in the game. Um,
I used to swear by the marquee packs.
yeah, I remember you would buy like one
I buy every
every
single.
time.
They were nine when they were 9.99. I will die on the hill that that was the best value in the game at the time. Now it's these. What are the pack? These,
The light side bundles,
yeah,
the light
now,
speed bundles.
yeah, those trumpet by far. But when marquees were 9.99, it was a jump start to tremendous value in my opinion. But I think CG caught on, which is why they're like 29.99 now, and
Like,
they
wait, we can. we can
and it
bump
includes
these
shit
up.
you don't need. Right. Like, oh,
Well,
we'll
that's what
add.
a lot of those daily deals, for example. There are a few that are objectively good, like the impulse
One you don't get with
detectors.
impulse detonators. Yeah.
And they're not as useful anymore because there's so many other ways to get those impulse detectors. But there's ones that'll be like, hey, you get this thing you want, and it's a good value for the thing you want, but there's 1,000 of this other thing you want, so we've bumped up the price,
That's a
and
lot
you're
of
like,
what they do these
ugh.
days. Like, oh, here's a Zeta pack for $100, but it's $100 because you get your 10 Zetas, but you get like 150 Omegas. And you're like, oh, sweet. That's
Great,
what
I have
I'm
800 of them. Like I
thinking.
don't.
Yeah.
Um, actually, that $200 Omicron pack, I didn't message you about it just to help you out because
Is
I
there a
was like, I don't
$200
know.
one?
There was like a $200 like Omicron
Oh,
pack.
I
You got
vaguely
like
remember that
80.
last year, right?
No, it was very recent because
Oh,
someone was posting about it recently, and I did the math, and
not
I
good.
did a thing this summer because I was bored, right? I wasn't working. I'm a teacher, where I priced out everything in the game and to max everything in the game, and I used very complex, like I looked at every pack and I was like trying to figure out like the dynamics of this price versus that price and how to price different things, and I had valued Omicrons at like $2.92.
For a
So this
single Omicron.
for a single one, not for a whole 20. And the pack was actually a pretty high value, but it's also a high price. So it prices out people like me who are, I'm like, I'm not spending 200 fucking dollars on this game.
Was a good value. Would I have bought it?
That's why I didn't message you because you would have bought it.
I will admit, I think I'm at a point now where I'm pretty happy with Omicrons. I will also admit I have yet to find an opponent in GAC with more GAC Omicrons than
Than you
myself.
do.
But I'm also at a point where I, they're not releasing them quick enough. And
Yeah.
sorry to Yak, who is our Territory Wars officer, but I haven't applied one since Boba Fett released. And until Territory Wars matchmaking has changed, there's very little
There's no
incentive
reason to.
doing them. It has to be a guild push to be relevant. And unfortunately, Territory Wars matchmaking is in a state where there's just no point.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd find any interest in 200 more or however it was $200. How many Omicrons
It
was
was
that?
like $200. I think it was 80 or 90, somewhere around there.
No, I think that would have priced myself out. I the only thing I think I spend on at this point are holiday crystal packs,
Yeah.
and that usually caps out at like $70, and it's twice a year. Or it's sometimes the online bundles 100. I don't even do those anymore. I used to do the $100 um, crystal boosts where you get like 25% more or whatever.
I've done those before.
But no, surprisingly, I think I'm at a decent place in this game where I'm comfortable. Um, the one thing I like that CG did, going back to Datacrons, is we get stuff in return. So
Yeah.
kind of my heavy crystal deposit for Datacrons paid off because I continue to get reinvested. So I spend a little bit less every time. I think CG's
I
caught on because I think they keep changing what you get. Is this a thing? Am I making this up? Have
I don't really
you
pay
read that anywhere?
attention.
I don't frequent Reddit, but in my observation, I feel like over time they've shifted the refund amount of stuff.
I don't even pay attention. I've never even looked at it. I just hit the button in the morning and he goes, yeah, sure. I don't, okay, that's
By the
fine.
way, do you delete your stuff on your own or do you wait for the computer to do it?
It depends on if I have credits. If I
Okay.
need to like lower the credits, like I'll try to finish. Sometimes it doesn't work out right, but like that I try to do. But for the most part, I just go for it. If I see I'm at like 25 out of 30, I will try to spend or do whatever I have to do before I do it. Um, but for the most part, I don't.
I have a question. I've noticed this before, but I got to bring it up before I don't bring it up. All the Broncos stuff.
Yeah. So here's the
Were
thing.
you a Broncos fan last year?
No.
Okay.
So here's we're gonna end on this because my wife actually just FaceTimed me and called me. So I don't know what's going on, but so last year during football season, you had like, hey, can you do the fantasy football? And I
We got
was like, I
nine
don't
people.
really
We need a 10th. Come on.
right, like I don't know shit about football, but sure, whatever, $25. Like I don't care. Like it's like it sucks to lose $25, but it's also nothing and kind of fun. Um, and at the end of that season, my wife had said to me, she's like, I feel like
You didn't finish in 10th, if I remember correctly, right?
I
Last year?
finished really bad last year. I finished in like ninth or 10th. I finished really low. This year, I think I did slightly better, but I
You
still
did?
didn't make the playoffs.
No.
No,
I think
I
you
was,
finished the standings in 10th, but then you like made it to 8th by winning in the playoffs or something.
well, there were a few days in this season where I went to bed thinking I was going to win, and then just something stupid happened. And I'm like, are you fucking, how did you get 60 points? Like, how?
Or you pissed
Um,
me off because I lost to you, and I'm like,
that first
how?
day.
How?
Me and DK were joking about that the next day. But so at the end of last football season, my wife had said to me, she's like, "We're going to be fans this next year because I feel like we miss out. All of our friends are football fans. I feel like we're alienated for 4 months." And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure, whatever." And she did this whole like Facebook whatever process where she like picked her favorite logos and her favorite teams and then got like her friends to chime in, and she honed in on the Broncos, which I'm fine with because I love Denver. We went to Denver for our honeymoon, and I
I
and
remember
I
that.
fell in
You
love
know that.
with that city. Like I'm like, great, cool, Broncos, fine. I thought it was gonna last 2 weeks. I thought we'd watch two football games and she'd be done. But like I watch the games, but she'll send me messages. She's like, "Oh my God, did you see this guy's injured? Did you see that this guy is this? Oh, fucking Judy, like he's blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, well,
Wilson's been benched.
right." Like she she will send me so many like fuck Russell Wilson kinds of things. And I'm like, "All right, calm down." So we are now big Broncos fans. We watched them all season. I got her this blanket for Christmas. She got me this hoodie like at the beginning of the season. Both of our cats have Broncos jerseys.
So
Uh,
this isn't ending now. This season, this is continuing.
no, we're head in. We're doing this. Like I've enjoyed watching it. It's been fun. I do wish I have a friend who's really big into football. We're great friends, and I wish I was more into football when I was younger and we hung out more. But it is what it is. I've enjoyed it. Next year we won't steal all of the games. Next year we'll buy the pass because
Oh, I was going to ask if how you were watching all the games. So you're
yeah,
using
you know, we're
third
pirating.
party, yeah, pirating.
Well,
But next year you'll buy NFL Sunday ticket.
you know what the problem was this year? I wasn't gonna pay $400 to watch one game a week, but she watches every game.
Really?
She wants to watch Monday. She wants to watch Thursday. She will watch our game on Sunday. She'll watch the other game on Sunday. So I'm like, you know what? Then maybe it's worth it. Next year we'll buy the pass.
So what are you guys or what is she doing for the playoffs with Denver being on the sideline? Are you
Oh,
just
where we
is there a rooting interest?
no. She's a big Taylor Swift fan, so I'm sure she's gonna be rooting for the Chiefs. But I don't care. Like the playoffs are dead to
Are
me.
you gonna
I'll
watch?
I'll watch the games. Yeah, yeah, we'll watch the games. But I don't care who wins.
Are you doing fantasy next season?
If you guys do it, I'll do
I wasn't, but now that I won, I'm gonna do it.
it.
I got so pissed this whole season. My team every year is just the last 2 years has been so injury ridden.
Those that excuse me, I had Joe Burrow. He was my quarterback. He didn't play the first 5 games, and then he's out after 3 games.
True.
So go fuck yourself. I
But
didn't have a quarterback.
in fairness, the kid, whoever I played, I forget who I played. Um, I don't think he had a quarterback 3/4 of the season. He still made the finals.
Last year, I was laughing with my wife about this. Like last year, I had Tua Tagovailoa,
Yep.
and he played like shit. Like I never got any points with him. And this year he was amazing. And I was like, motherfucker, like why didn't you play like this last year? Why couldn't you like be my MVP? And it just didn't happen. It
I
is what it
stole
is.
someone week one on waivers who it turned out to be, in my opinion, the league MVP, and that's probably the sole reason I won.
You're gonna say a name and I'm not gonna know who it is
Oh,
because I'm still like,
Kyrene,
yeah,
running
I
back
don't.
for the Rams. But
You're lucky that I know half of the Broncos team, but I'm getting there. We're becoming
you're
we're
probably
becoming
lucky
one
you
again.
didn't draft any Broncos.
I did. I drafted I think two Broncos, but they weren't good Broncos, and I
Defensive players, or was it like
rid
Jerry
of them.
Judy?
No, it wasn't Jerry Judy because I would have kept Judy, even though he likes to butterfingers some things. But I would have kept him. It was I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't somebody who was giving me points, and I think he was a defensive player. All right. So with that said, thank you for being here.
Oh,
I,
my
I need to
pleasure.
call my
Thanks.
wife.
No,
Uh, so,
understandable.
but I really didn't think you'd be down for something like this. So I do appreciate you doing this, and it was fun.
I was just surprised you were doing it, so that's why I brought it up. But yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah. If you're ever in New York, hit me up. Drive down. We'll go to Manhattan. I'll take you out. Like
It's funny. It's something I've been thinking about going in this year or next year, so it's quite
go to this.
possible.
Go to the city. I will make my way there for you.
I would extend the same invitation, but I highly doubt anyone wants to come to Cleveland. So
Yeah, no, it's not happening. There's a difference between Cleveland and
quite a
and and,
difference.
and New York. But if you ever do make it out, let me know. Tell me ahead of time. I'll try to figure out a weekend. I'll make my way down there.
We'll do.
All right.
One question.
Cheers. Yes.
Are you going to try to get Arnold on?
I you know what? I think it's a great last question. This project started as like to talk to regular players, right? Like to just the people who play the game and find out different things. And then I talked to Kazgul, who really is a regular player, but he's like a Reddit personality. And then I talked to Celiac Sarah, who is a streamer and she is a personality. And I did enjoy her insight, and I really enjoyed talking to her, and I enjoyed talking to him. I think I would want to talk to him eventually, but I think
Well, Cat, yeah, I get it.
it's not that it goes against the spirit, but I feel like
Sure.
it's way down the road because if I do it too early or I ask him too early or I approach him too early, it kind of overshadows everything else that I'm trying to do.
Very true. I could see that.
So maybe in a year, maybe in 6 months, I'll reach out to him and see. But at this point, like I do want to just see what people are saying before I get his opinion or other people's opinion.
Sure. Makes
All
sense.
right.
All right.
All
Well, I
right.
will let
So
you get to your phone call. So go call your wife. Thanks for
cheers.
having me. Later.